February the 26th, 1935, Daventry, Warwickshire, England. The wind howls across the English countryside, bending the antenna masts that rise like skeletal fingers against the grey sky. Beneath one of them stands a thin, sharp-eyed man in a long wool coat, clutching a clipboard against the drizzle. His name is Robert Watson Watt, a Scottish-born engineer, 42 years old, brilliant, stubborn, and according to some in the Air Ministry, completely insane. Beside him, his assistant Arnold Skip Wilkins fusses with a tangled mess of copper wire and valves inside the back of a van. The equipment hums faintly, fragile, temperamental. Watson Watt glances at his watch. 2 minutes until takeoff, he mutters. Wilkins looks up, nervous. You really think we'll hear it? Watson Watt smirks. If we don't, Skip, you'll be out of a job. And I'll be remembered as the man who tried to fight airplanes with static. Over 15 miles away, a Handley Page Hayford bomber lifts off from RAF Farnborough, its twin engines droning through the mist. The pilot's orders are simple. Fly straight toward the Daventry transmitting station, Britain's largest shortwave radio tower, and give the mad scientist his test. The bomber climbs to 6,000 feet. Down below, Watson Watt's receiver hisses with a faint rhythm, a pulse. Then, faintly, a ghostly echo appears on the oscilloscope, a curve, rising and falling perfectly in sync with the plane's path. Watson Watt straightens, eyes wide. There, he says. Do you see it? Wilkins stares. That's the aircraft. Watson Watt's smile grows into something almost fierce. We're hearing the sky, Skip. For the first time in history, an aircraft has been detected not by sound or sight, but by the reflection of invisible radio waves. When the bomber lands, the Air Ministry observers, previously unimpressed, are speechless. You've built an invisible eye, one mutters. Watson Watt shrugs. Not an eye, he corrects. An ear. Still, many in London remain unconvinced. One senior officer scoffs, calling it a parlour trick. Another dismisses it outright. Germany builds airplanes, and we build radio illusions. But in the darkening skies over Europe, something ominous is growing, and soon the world will understand just how vital that radio illusion truly is. July 1936. Bawdsey Manor, Suffolk Coast, England. The summer air smells of salt and ozone. Waves crash below the cliffs as gulls wheel above the towers of Bawdsey Manor, a sprawling Gothic estate that now hums not with dinner parties, but with experimental transmitters and the clatter of soldering irons. Watson Watt and his small team, Arnold Wilkins, Edward Bowen, Skip Tremlett, have taken over the mansion, turning its ballroom into a laboratory where aristocrats once danced. Men in lab coats now wrestle with oscilloscopes and vacuum tubes. Coils of copper wire hang from chandeliers. The grand piano has been shoved aside to make room for a transmitter. Gentlemen, Watson Watt says, gesturing toward a chalkboard filled with equations. The question is no longer if we can hear aircraft, it's how far away we can hear them. Outside, a 360-foot steel tower rises over the beach, one of the first radar masts in history. It emits bursts of radio energy in the 20 to 30 megahertz range. Every time an aircraft passes, a faint echo returns. Weak, but measurable. Bowen squints at the green glow of the cathode screen. I'm getting something. Altitude about 3,000 feet. Watson Watt nods. Plot it. Wilkins marks a dot on a map, then another and another. A pattern begins to emerge. Aircraft position, heading, distance. By God, Bowen whispers. It's a map in sound. The system works, imperfectly but undeniably. Each tower can hear aircraft up to 90 miles away. By linking them along the coast, they can form an unbroken chain of early warning, a chain home, as Watson Watt names it. Still, the skeptics remain. A visiting Air Ministry official frowns at the bulky equipment, the flickering screens. Can this tell us friend from foe? He asks. Not yet, Watson Watt replies. Then it's useless. Watt's temper flares. It's life, sir. Given warning, even 10 minutes warning, your fighters can climb to meet them. Without it, there'll be ash in their hangars. He's right, but few believe it. Funding is slow, bureaucracy slower. Yet the team presses on, night after night, testing, refining, expanding. By 1939, 20 towers rise along Britain's eastern coast, each one a silent sentinel facing Europe. And across the Channel, something else is rising, the Black Cross of the Luftwaffe. That summer, Watt receives a telegram from the Air Ministry. Germany has invaded Poland. Britain will stand firm. Radar installations to be considered top priority. He folds the message and looks toward the North Sea where the horizon blurs into fog. They'll come from there, he murmurs, and when they do, we'll hear them long before we see them. He's right. The war is coming, and Britain's survival will depend on this strange chain of invisible ears. August 13th, 1940. Southern England. Dawn breaks cold and golden over the cliffs of Dover. Below, waves slam against chalk and steel, but above them, silence. No one sees the hundreds of aircraft gathering across the Channel, engines idling in the mist. In Berlin, it's Adlertag. Eagle Day. Hermann Goering's grand assault on Britain has begun. The Luftwaffe's plan is simple: crush the Royal Air Force in a matter of weeks. The German bombers, Dornier 17s, Heinkel 111s, and Junkers 88s, roar toward the coast in perfect formation, escorted by Messerschmitt Bf 109s. But in a small, dim room at RAF Bentley Priory, a young Women's Auxiliary Air Force, WAF operator, named Joan Pearson, watches the green glow of a cathode ray screen. "Contact! Bearing 110 degrees, 80 miles out," she calls. Her voice cuts through the operations room. On the wall, a team of plotters moves small coloured counters across a giant map of southern England, and each counter a squadron, each movement a matter of life and death. At the centre of it all stands Air Chief Marshal Hugh Dowding, silent, eyes fixed on the map. "So," he murmurs, "they're finally coming." To his side, Group Captain Keith Park leans over the board. "Chain home stations confirm?" "Yes, sir." Multiple echoes. "Looks like over 200 aircraft. Heading Dover." Dowding gives a single nod. "Scramble Biggin Hill and Tangmere. Get 11 Group Airborne immediately." And just like that, Britain moves. Sirens wail. Pilots sprint to their Spitfires and Hurricanes, engines roaring awake. Within minutes, the RAF climbs into the sky. Perfectly timed, perfectly positioned. They don't yet see the bombers, but they know they're coming. 15 minutes later, the Luftwaffe crosses the coast and finds an enemy already waiting. The dogfights are savage. Cannon shells rip through the clouds. Parachutes bloom like torn petals. Yet from the ground, the radar stations keep talking, updating, adjusting, directing fighters exactly where they're needed. The German formations, expecting surprise, find chaos instead. At Bordsey, the original radar site, the team listens as reports pour in. The operators sweat, tracking wave after wave. "East sector's clear," one shouts. "No, wait, new echo, low altitude." Watt, now a senior advisor, watches the board quietly. "They're trying to slip under the beam," he says. "Tell Dowding to send the reserve squadrons north. They'll loop behind them." Within minutes, RAF fighters appear where no one expects them. The Luftwaffe's attack collapses. By dusk, 60 German aircraft lie scattered across Kent and the Channel. British losses are heavy, but survivable. The RAF lives to fight another day. At Bordsey, Wilkins looks up from the monitor, exhausted. "Do you think they realise what we've done?" Watt removes his glasses, staring into the darkness. "They'll realise soon enough," he says. "They think they're fighting pilots. They're fighting physics. The crazy idea, the invisible ear, has become Britain's shield. And in the days that follow, as wave after wave of German bombers rise over France, the chain home stations stand ready, humming softly in the dawn, listening for death before it arrives. September the 15th, 1940, Battle of Britain Day. The morning sky is a restless blue streaked with contrails. From the lawns outside Bentley Priory, the sound of engines fills the air. Not just the hum of British Spitfires and Hurricanes, but the deep rolling thunder of German bombers crossing the Channel once again. Inside the command centre, the atmosphere is electric. Operators lean over their scopes, headphones pressed tight. Each blip on the glowing screens is another formation, incoming, fast, and deadly. Raid heading London, bearing 095 degrees, one WAF reports. 200 plus. Dowding steps forward. Confirm with chain home. Confirmed, sir. Multiple echoes along the coast. Altitude 15,000 and rising. Dowding exhales slowly. Then we'll meet them in the air. He turns to his aide. Scramble everything we have. Biggin Hill, Hornchurch, North Weald, all of them. Moments later, fields across southern England erupt with motion. Pilots dash across the grass, engines scream to life. The coordination is flawless. Squadrons guided not by guesswork but by the invisible hand of radar. In the air, the clash is apocalyptic. Sergeant Geoffrey Wellham of No. 92 Squadron later recalls, "The sky looked alive. Tracers, shadows, flashes. It was as if the world had turned to metal and fire. Yet amid the chaos, the RAF is never blind. Ground controllers, armed with fresh radar plots, vector fighters toward the bombers in real time. Every minute shaved from reaction time saves lives. Every interception breaks another German formation apart. In Berlin, Luftwaffe commanders are bewildered. How does the RAF always know where they are? Intelligence officers suspect a network of spies or hidden observers. Few can imagine the truth, that their aircraft are being detected by invisible waves bouncing from the sea. By afternoon, the tide turns. The Luftwaffe loses more than 60 bombers. British losses are half that. The German offensive wavers. Within weeks, Hitler postpones Operation Sea Lion, the planned invasion of Britain. That evening, in the quiet after battle, Watson Watt stands on the cliffs near Bawdsey, watching the sunset bleed across the North Sea. The towers hum faintly in the wind, sending out their eternal pulses. Wilkins approaches, coat pulled tight against the cold. "They're saying we've won the battle," he says softly. Watson Watt doesn't smile. Battles are fought by men, but wars. He looks at the towers. Wars are won by ideas. He's right. Radar, born from skepticism and laughter, has become Britain's unseen armour. Months later, Churchill himself will visit the stations and call the system the eyes and ears of the nation. But those who built it know better. It was an ear, not an eye. One that listened to the sky when everyone else was deaf. When the war finally turns, when the bombers no longer come, the masts at Bawdsey will stand silent against the dawn, a monument to one man's refusal to be dismissed as mad. Sir Robert Watson Watt's crazy idea didn't just detect planes. It detected the future and gave Britain the chance to survive long enough to see it.